Hello, welcome back to another episode of Come Back Stronger. I'm Dana Brooks of the Facig Brooks Law Offices, and I'm joined today with my law partner, Jimmy Facig. Welcome back, everybody. We've got a wonderful show for you today. We've got a very strong, powerful woman who does wonderful things to help people who struggle with mental illness disorders. She helps them come out of their shell, express their creativity, and celebrate everything that's very unique about them and their talents. So we've got Katie Clark with us today.
Yes.
Jimmy, you may remember she was featured in a recent article in Tallahassee Magazine because of what she's doing.
Yes. Well, what I love about Katie Clark is Katie herself has suffered from mental health issues, and she's been able to channel the pain and the challenges that she's had into something creative and something productive that really benefits the rest of us. And so when I think about Katie, I think about all the people throughout history that have had mental health issues, the artists that have been amazing artists that have really produced things like Vincent van Gogh, Ernest Hemingway, Virginia Woolf. All these artists, their creativity comes from their pain. And so Katie is a perfect example of somebody who has channeled that pain into something good.
And I like that she kind of opens us up into that world that maybe we haven't experienced. And so I think a lot of times people who struggle with disorders that are not understood well, I think a lot of times they feel invisible. And I think this is like an opening, a welcoming for us to go on this journey with some of the people who struggle differently than we do, and to experience things through their eyes and see everything that's very interesting, unique that they contribute. You'll hear from Katie. She is not a one-trick pony. She is, I think, a third-generation photographer, so she's got that running deep. I just read an excerpt from a children's book she's working on. She is a beautifully talented writer.
She's a poet.
She's a poet. She's a former science teacher. I mean, just got a big bag of tricks here that she's got. But what I like is that she's found a way to be expressive and share her talents, but then bring some other people along with her.
That's the key to any great comeback story, is that you have challenges, you overcome the challenges, and you learn lessons on the way overcoming those challenges that you can help other people come back stronger from the same type of challenges that you faced.
No, Katie's a huge inspiration. I can't wait for you to see the first segment of my interview with her coming up right after the break. Stay tuned.
I recently had a new client, and she suffered a mild traumatic brain injury. And she had no idea what had happened that caused her to be injured.
Gotcha.
But it turns out she had fallen into a pit at an oil change station. And it was 100% their fault.
Oh, wow.
But
her injury made her not even understand
her injury, and it makes me so frustrated, because folks that suffer concussions or mild traumatic brain injuries, it's really difficult for them to know what happened and to understand the difference in what their life was and what it is now because of the nature of their condition. And so the insurance companies need to recognize the full value of that.
Instead of taking advantage of that very unique situation.
It took her family telling her, you need to call an attorney. Her family coming with her to the appointment to say, these are the differences, to get her in there, and now we're able to help her.
I love that. And we are back. Get ready to look at this first segment of my two-part interview with Katie Clark. Take a look. Hello, Katie. How are you?
I am doing wonderfully. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited to have you here because I think most people are familiar with you from the magazine article in Tallahassee Magazine about Katie Clark and how you use art to deal with or process parts of your mental illness. Okay. Would you mind telling us a little bit about that and sharing your story with us?
Yes, I have bipolar disorder, and I had a lot of dark days and really, really difficult days. And I started using my art, photography, and writing to get through that. And I was able to totally overcome my depression and my mania with my art. And I'm happy to say that I have a happier life and a more enriched life because of my art.
Art's so wonderful. It does so many things. It allows us to get things that are inside of us out
through a socially acceptable form of expression. In fact, something that's very beautiful, which is sort of what you're doing in the world. You're expressing yourselves through photography, and then do you you also do writing, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. Have you put in, is it poetry or what exactly are you writing?
I write both poetry and prose.
What are your motivators? What do you like to write about?
I like to write about my experience with my mental health. I also like to write about fairies and fantasy. I love the world of fantasy.
So is that something like Harry Potter type things? Is that what you consider fantasy fiction?
Yeah.
Wizards and such like that?
And dragons and...
Okay. I'm out of my depth here, but anyway, I will defer to you on that. Tell me the kinds of things, you write poems, right?
Yes.
Okay. And do you, in your work, do you find other people who use art expression as a way to deal with their mental illness and challenges?
Again, I'm a part of a couple online communities, and I have found quite a few people that have used their art to help process their mental illness.
How did that even occur to you, that this might help you through those really dark times?
I just started writing, and...
Like journaling? Did you journal?
Journaling, but mostly writing poetry, and it helped. It helped soothe my soul.
What is it, do you think, about the act of expressing art that is soothing to you?
Just the creation. It's like it helps get over the illness.
Okay.
It has control over the illness.
Helps you feel in control of it. I got you. And then you also have created something. It's kind of neat whenever, we go through life, and a lot of us don't really make things. Like, I don't build a house or, paint a painting. So it's really nice when you do create something with your energy and your experience and your challenges, like with you. And you've got a lovely book now. Well, you want to share your book with us?
Okay. This is called Acceptance of Seasons,
okay.
And you can find it on Amazon. This is my experience with bipolar disorder and my mental illness, about my mania and depression and everything in between. I have written it all down so the reader can experience it, see what it's like.
I bet it helps some people to say, I'm not the only person struggling with this.
Right.
Do you hear from people?
Yes, I've heard some people saying it helps me understand what you go through, and also people saying, "Well, I'm not alone in this.
Yeah.
I'm not alone in my depression.
Right.
I can actually say that it's okay to be depressed.
Yeah.
It's okay to feel out of control. It's okay to have thoughts of suicide.
Yeah, and it's okay to feel not okay. And ask for help and find a path out of it. I see it's called Acceptance of Seasons. Is that what your book journey was for you, was an acceptance?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. And then I would assume probably at some point you feel like you're in control of it now. It's an acceptance, but also you're deciding how your journey is going to go. You're helping so many other people through your art studio and all the things you're doing down there. I want to, when we come back from the break, I want to talk about everything you're doing. I want to talk about your art, your photography, your poems, and then also your advocacy and what you're doing to help other people who have challenges.
Okay.
Sounds good. We'll be right back after this.
Don't you love her?
She is so impressive. What's so impressive about her is you can tell she's a little uncomfortable, but despite that, she is putting herself out there. She's talking about mental health issues, her own mental health issues, which is, that's a challenging thing to talk about, to let people know about. But she not only does that, but she writes a book. Why? Because she's overcome it herself. She's learned a way of dealing with it, and she wants to share that with the rest of the world. That is a comeback story.
She's all about the comeback formula. I liked everything that she was talking about. I liked the acceptance, because so many things that we don't like in our life, we try to fight them. We spend a lot of time fighting them. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up and accepting that this is your fate and you don't have any control. It's accepting that this is a challenge that you're going to probably have to deal with more than once, and that this is part of your life, and that you are making a commitment to having your best life despite that challenge. So I like that. But she touched on something. In the second half, we'll talk about her advocacy, but she talked about being in some online community groups, online support groups for other people who struggle with mental illness and their desire to express it through creative outlets.
These online groups, there are all sorts of online groups for everybody that has any sort of challenges whatsoever. You can find an online group that you will resonate with. We have one called Come Back Stronger. We're personal injury lawyers. We are all about helping people face challenges and overcome adversity and come back stronger. So there's a Fasig Brooks Come Back Stronger group. Anyone is welcome to join. But there are all sorts of online communities, and those are the kind of communities that can really help somebody, because it feels good to know that you're not alone in the challenges that you're facing.
And to be supported by somebody who you can relate to.
Yeah.
It's great to have good intentions and a good support system behind you, but it really is different when somebody else understands that bipolar isn't just, I'm moody. Bipolar isn't just, so one day I'm up, one day I'm down. The low's pretty low. The manic is a lot of times psychotic features. It's quite a journey the rest of us have not been on. So I love the empowerment that comes from these online communities and the things she does with her advocacy. Similar with us, we've got Empower Hour, which is another online community group we have. That's my passion, to help women and girls and bring on people, support them, particularly people who are differently abled, because the world just looks at them differently, and they need to have a greater voice, and we need to normalize discussions about it.
I can't wait to talk about this more.
I can't wait for the second half. We'll be right back after this break, and we will look at the second half of our interview with Katie Clark.
You know what's funny? When law firms advertise that they'll give a free consultation, every consultation we give is free, unless we can get you a settlement based on your injuries.
Right.
Every time you give me a call, it's free. I want you to give me a call. We're not going to charge you unless we actually get you something for your case.
That's right. You don't have to pay me anything unless I win the case.
Right.
And on top of that, I'm going to pay for all of the court costs and the deposition costs and medical records costs and expert opinions costs. All of that's coming out of my pocket. And if we don't win the case, then we eat those costs at no charge to you.
Right. So we don't take a case we don't believe in because it's not in our interest.
Right.
And we don't minimize or devalue your case because that's also not in our interest.
Right.
So it makes everything fair.
If you have a lawyer on a contingency fee, you can hire the very best lawyer.
And we are back for our second segment of our interview with Katie Clark. Take a look.
And we're back with Katie Clark. I want to get a little bit more into your actual art, the things that you actually produce. Tell us about those and where we could go find them and see them.
Oh, so I am actually a third generation photographer. My grandmother was a photographer for the Navy base. She did all the photography in Panama City for Naval Coastal System Station.
Oh.
And then my dad was a Navy photographer, and I'm a photographer. I started when they passed away in 2015.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I decided to pick up a camera as a way of processing grief. I feel like whenever I have my camera, I have them with me.
Oh.
So every time I take a picture, I feel their presence with me.
That's wonderful.
I started taking pictures of landscapes and nature. I still take pictures of landscapes and nature. One of my favorite things to do is to do panos.
Yeah.
Where you take multiple pictures and you stitch them together. And one of my favorite pictures of the old cars is 27 pictures put together, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I bet that took a long time to do.
Yeah, it took a little bit of time, But then I started to get into portraits, and I'm still really working on my portraits. And one of my things that I like to work with portraits is to really capture the emotions of people.
Yeah.
Although I do headshots and baby portraits and families and as part of my business, I'm really interested in capturing the emotions of people.
Yeah.
And the humanity.
Yeah, the things that words really don't really encapsulate. You can see it better through photography, yeah. Now you also, let's see, you're a dancer, an actor, all kinds of stuff. You're very talented. Tell us about your history in the arts. How'd you learn all that?
As far as being a dancer, I started when I was 4. And I actually went through college, and a little bit afterwards, when I moved here for a teaching job in 2010, I kept dancing at Truesdale.
Yeah.
As an adult ballet for a while, until I just got too busy.
Well, it's good. It's something you could always pick up at any time, I guess.
Yeah, I probably
It's
could.
good for your soul. It's good for your soul and your body. Tell me about some of your art and where we can see it. Some of the things that you had an exhibit that was it in a museum and now it's online? Tell us about your exhibit, your installation.
Okay, so one thing that you can see is my art at the Hyatt Hotel.
Okay.
You could go see it at Railroad Square Hyatt House.
Okay.
And that's landscape art.
Okay.
My landscape art. One thing that you could see is part of art that I am really trying to do is my advocacy.
Yeah, say more about that.
Since I really try to normalize mental illness, so I try to show that in mental illness, it's okay to have a mental illness. Sure. So I took pictures of a person with mental illnesses and did a interview with them. And I had pictures of them and the mental and the interview right beside each other, and I had a show with 15 of these pairs, so everybody could see that anybody can have a mental illness.
Yeah.
But the interview showed that everybody can live well with a mental illness.
Right.
And now you can find them at Faces. It's called Faces of Hope.
Faces of Hope.
You can find it in facesofhope.net.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, tell us how that has transferred into your advocacy. Tell me what you do to help people who are struggling with mental illness, whether it is suicidal ideation or if it's just coping with something that they are trying to normalize in their lives. What do you do from an advocacy standpoint?
I just try to be true to myself and do my art and show my art. And this month actually is Suicide Awareness Month.
Right.
I'm doing the same thing I did for the mental health awareness. I am taking pictures of people who have experienced suicide, whether the suicide ideations or actually
Lost someone or
attempted, and telling their story.
I think that is so helpful. What do you think is the beneficial part of what everybody else needs to know about suicidal awareness? What do we need to do to be there for people in our lives who we may not even understand or struggling?
Just show up for them. Just be there and understand that you may not know that they are going through it.
Yeah.
But they could really use a friend. They can really use a friend.
Yeah.
And they could use the support.
And I think it's important too, like you said, to normalize it and to not expect that person to explain it to your satisfaction, because a lot of things about it don't make sense. But that's why it's so important to have someone who's got some experience with it, who can relate, but who can also share that grief and that angst and anxiety and everything that people who experience mental illness are dealing with, to share it with the rest of us so we can have a little bit more empathy and understanding. And maybe we can be like you and try to bring some normalization to this and help as many people as we can. But I really appreciate you spending some time with us today, Katie. How do we learn more about you? Do you have a website, or how do we learn more about your efforts to help people who are struggling with mental illness?
Again, you can go to my website, facesofhope.net.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I do have another website where you can just look at my regular photography.
Wonderful.
KM Clark Photography.
Okay.
.shootproof.net.
Oh, that's a good name. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate everything you're doing, and I appreciate you sharing your struggles and the struggles of people you've known and helped with all of us. It makes the world a better place. Thank you so much.
Oh, what a wonderful woman.
I love her.
Yeah.
I absolutely love her. You know why? I love what she stands for. She stands for the fact that no matter what your challenges are, no matter what your struggles are, you matter.
Yeah.
You are important. What you do is important, and you still can contribute to making this world a better place. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
That is so cool, man. I think she's an amazing person.
I do too, and I love that she is getting recognition for
Yes.
this. You know,
Yeah.
this is a real art installation, and she's online with it. She's brought other people into it. Don't forget her website again is facesofhope.net, and then she's got her photography website. I'm a Facebook friend with her, so I see a lot of what she's posting, and like I said, I got to see a little snippet of a book that she's writing. She's, I think, under contract to write a children's book. But to, wow, have your art put up in an art installation, have a website, bring other people in. I mean, she's really taken something that is so challenging that it does make people sometimes consider whether they want to keep living with that diagnosis, and she's turned it into just a wonderful thing for everybody.
She has taken her biggest challenge,
Yeah.
and she's turned it into her greatest strength. And that is what it's all about. That's why we're called Come Back Stronger, because we're taking our challenges and turning them into strengths. I like to say that the pain we suffer in life is temporary, but the wisdom we gain is forever.
Yeah.
And I love thinking about that, because what she has done is she's struggled through some pain. She's gained some wisdom, and she's giving that wisdom away freely in her book, and she's changing the world.
She has changed the world. I have a friend who, every time he hears people say, "Oh, you're going to change the world," or "You should change the world," he goes, "For better."
Yes.
You know, there's a lot of people who
Yes.
change the world, not necessarily for better.
Yes.
And she's definitely doing
Yes.
that. One of the things I like is that she's helping me understand. You know, I'm understanding that whenever she's showing me a portraiture that she's done, she's trying to say, don't look at this picture I'm putting up. See what the person is feeling, see what I'm trying to communicate
The
through
emotions,
this. You know, when
yes.
she talked about her photography makes her feel close and feel the presence of her deceased parents,
Yes.
who were also themselves successful photographers. So, you know, there's just so many ways you can look at what the world throws your way. And she's decided to feel miss her parents in a wonderful way through her expression of
Through
art.
her art.
Yeah.
Through her art. I love the way that she says that her art soothes her soul. Because there's a lot of ways for us to express ourselves, and when we express ourselves, it releases that pent-up energy, those dark days.
The dark days.
And so she uses it to soothe her soul, but there's many other ways that you can soothe your
Yeah,
soul.
a lot of people use-
meditation,
Yeah.
through activity like
Yeah.
sports or exercise. But she's just an incredible person.
She is. I like everything that she's talking about, and I can't wait to wrap up our two-part interview with Katie Clark when we get back right after this. Stay tuned.
I went to lunch with one of my former clients the other day, and she's doing great. She took the money from her settlement and she started her own company buying and selling vehicles, which is really cool because she was in a car crash and then needed a new vehicle. And so now she's able to help other folks out.
Most of our clients, they find that one of the most frustrating things is the dealing with the vehicle.
Oh, well, losing your car can totally disrupt your life.
You can lose your livelihood over it. If you can't get to work, or you know, what's the worst thing with our clients is we're just trying to help them get well. But if they can't get to the health care that they need, you know, that's just another setback.
One of the typical things about a comeback story is you take the pain and the struggles and the challenges that you've been through, and you use that as the fire that kind of motivates you to do something good for other people.
Yeah.
And so I love that, because now our client did exactly that, like literally to the T.
And we are back for our conclusion of our two-part interview with Katie Clark. She was such an inspirational young woman. And yeah, when I was listening to the challenges that she says that are unique to her because of her diagnosis, and to the people that she works with in her community, I thought to myself, a lot of times people let that really run their lives. You know, their illness determines everything about their lives, and that gets old, and anybody will have a hard time just living that way day in, day out. So a lot of times people end up getting a dual diagnosis. That's a mental illness in addition to a substance use or substance abuse illness, and then they've got a cascading number of problems. Now you've got an addiction on top of it, or maybe you're you know, turning to crime to feed an addiction. Who knows? You know, you can end up living a very negative life because you're not able to cope with, accept, and positively channel your mental illness.
That's the word, is acceptance. And so one of my big takeaways from this is that she has decided to advocate for normalizing mental illness.
Yeah.
What she wants you to know is this: just because you have a mental illness doesn't mean you're defective. There's nothing wrong with you.
No.
You are just an original. You're unique. You're a unique person, and you have strengths and weaknesses just like everybody else in this world. And so I think that's important for people, because people that suffer from bipolar or from depression or from addiction or schizophrenia, I know I have that in my family, and I know that they suffer because of an identity of being, I am a schizophrenic, I am bipolar disorder, and they suffer so much from that because they feel like they're defective.
It's the whole of their parts. It's everything about them, and it isn't.
If you're somebody like that, or if you know someone like that, love yourself. Let them know that they are loved and important unconditionally, because that is such a stigma that I think is huge in this society.
And if you know someone who's struggling with suicidal ideations, please have them call 211 or a resource in your local area. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, everybody.
And you know what the insurance company offered him? $5,000.
Really?
He's completely blind, and they offer him $5,000. Ask him to sign a release.
To a lot of people, especially when they're hurting and when they're down and when they're vulnerable, $5,000 is a life-changing amount of money.
Yeah.
And they're not looking at the value of what has been lost. They're not looking at what it would take to make that person whole, which is our job.
Yeah.
That's our job. Their job isn't. Their job is to save the insurance company money.
Right.
And they look at this person and they go, I bet $5,000 would get your full attention. Right. And they come in and they dangle it with a settlement release, and then once you sign it, you're done. You can't come back to us and ask us to wave a magic wand and make that go away. That can't go away.
My client didn't accept the $5,000. We took him all the way to trial. We got a $5 million verdict.